Welcome to the Profitable Painter Podcast. The mission of this podcast is simple: to help you navigate the financial and tax aspects of starting, running, and scaling a professional painting business. From the brushes and ladders to the spreadsheets and balance sheets, we've got you covered. But before we dive in, a quick word of caution. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date financial and tax information, nothing you hear on this podcast should be considered as financial advice specifically for you or your business. We're here to share general knowledge and experiences, not to replace the tailored advice you get from a professional financial advisor or tax consultant. We strongly recommend you seeking individualized advice before making any significant financial decisions. Welcome to the Profitable Painter Podcast, the show where painting contractors learn how to boost profits, cut taxes, and build a business that works for them. I'm your host, Daniel Honan, CPA, former painting business owner, and your guide to mastering the numbers that drive success. So let's dive in and make your business more profitable, one episode at a time. Super excited. Today, I'm speaking with Jose with Refined Painting out of Washington State. Super excited to talk to you today. Jose, how's it going?
It's going great, Daniel. How about yourself?
Doing well. Excited to jump into the conversation. So, just to give folks a little bit of background on yourself, could you let us know, how did you get started in the painting industry, and what have been some major milestones along the way?
Yeah, so I got started in the paint industry as an estimator at another painting company here in Seattle. And I was there for 3 months, 4 months, and I decided that I was ready to start my own painting business. No painting experience ever. I barely knew how to estimate what I was estimating already. And I decided to go take the leap of faith and start my own painting business. Now we're 1 year in. We were able to hit $1 million our first 8 months in business. Now we are a year and a half in, and we're on track to hit over $2 million our second year in business.
So you're going to hit $2 million by the end of this
But
year?
correct, yes.
Wow. So year two, $2 million. In the first 8 months, you said that you did $1 million in the first 8 months.
Yeah, so we started in February last year, and come December, we were able to hit surpass our 1 million mark. And then obviously 2025, we started with a fresh slate, and then now we're going to be hitting over $2 million in revenue.
Awesome. And so you're doing residential repaint exclusively?
Yes, we did do a little bit of commercial to keep our guys busy last winter, but primarily, I would say 95% of our work is residential repaints.
Okay, cool. So how were you able to grow so quickly? Like, what do you attribute that growth to?
I attribute a lot to I was able to come across Justin. He owns Trade Launch, where he teaches you how to do door to door. I was able to come across him very early on, and thankfully, majority of our business was driven through door to door. So yeah, that was majority of that's the main reason for our success, and obviously, just taking action is also another part of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's huge. That's great stuff. Uh, so you worked with Justin at Trade Launch, and for those that don't know, Trade Launch, they focus pretty much exclusively on door to door, building a door to door team that can go
Yeah.
outbound and get leads, so that you can grow your painting business that way. And he's gotten some great results over there. So, what did that look like? Did you, like, from day one just went with Trade Launch and their system, or like was there a time where you didn't have that working with them, or?
No, I wish. I wish it was like this. Obviously, like any painting business, there's like a risk that goes into it. And I found out about Justin, I believe, in December. And I've been following him for a little bit, and I hopped on a call, I believe, late January, and he was like, "Jose, the time is now if you want to do it." And it was a big risk for me because I've never, paid for any programs or any mentorship. And once I got that going, I was able to hit boots on ground come February. I was able to build my door to door team relatively quick. I have a sales background, so it was something easier for me to tackle. And then we just started hitting the doors, building our team up, and then we started getting more work. And obviously now there's referrals and repeat clients. And in Seattle here, Daniel, you can only paint 3 months in the whole year. So we were ready. We were off for the races come June. And thankfully that helped us get to our 1 million mark.
Okay. So June, is kind of when you, because you're focusing exclusively on the exteriors or
Yeah, so that's most of our business is exteriors,
okay.
and it's because we only have a limited time to paint. So everybody's like, you have to fit like 200 plus exteriors in 3 months. It's very hectic, but it's possible. So that's how we were able to, you know, get the business that we got and maximize on it for
Okay.
our first year business.
So how did you source how many door-to-door canvassers did you source in the beginning to help you hit that $1 million in revenue? Like how many um how large of a team were you running?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was just me and my brother. My brother also has a sales background in with car sales. From then, we started building up the team. We got up to a point where we had six door-to-door reps at a point. And Daniel, door-to-door it's a difficult job. I mean, you're getting rejection across rejection.
Hmm.
So sometimes we would have four guys, and then we would hire again, and then it would be six. But the most amount of people was able to have that were part of my team collectively was six people. So
Okay.
six people was our team.
So how do you deal with the because you mentioned the churn is pretty high for door to door. What are the things that you're doing to keep those folks around as long as possible? Like what have you found that works to keep them motivated, well trained, and to stick around, to get some good results?
Yeah, I mean, I think the beginning is we were doing hourly rate, so that allowed us to bring people into the business because you're letting these people get the taste of sales without going the way of because most painting companies or most sales companies, Daniel, are like commission only, and that's it. So we were able to bring in people through an hourly pay, which allowed us to open up the demographic of applicants that were applying for us. And then from there, we're offering higher commissions. And then Justin has a thing where it's like an A lead, a B lead, and a C lead, which is a type of lead that your door-to-door reps are getting and we would pay significantly more for A leads. We were paying the most in all of Seattle. So I think that was also what allowed us to get the talent that we were able to get.
Yeah, I think is it like 6% of what they of the lead that
Yeah, yeah.
closes?
Looking
Yeah.
back at it now, it's like 6%. I mean, I know there was times where we were running like spiffs, and it ended up being like 8 to 10% at sometimes. But yeah, it was averaging 6%.
Okay. So for those A leads that close, they're getting 6% of that. And so that was your average job size like a $5,000 or something or
No, in Seattle, our extra season, our average job size was $12,000.
12,000?
Yeah,
So 6% of 12,000 is $720.
yeah,
So that's a lot of money for, you
yeah.
know, a door-to-door person. And that's good. I mean, that's like I mean, because and Justin, just at the PaintCon, listened to Justin talk on this. So and I definitely see the same thing looking at people's financials for Facebook or Facebook's a good example because Facebook is outbound where you're getting in front of people who weren't thinking about painting. Same thing with door to door. You're getting in front of people who might not have necessarily been thinking about painting. So it's an
Sure.
outbound type marketing strategy. And so for Facebook, it's not uncommon for folks to pay, you know, 10%, 12% on ad spend, to get customers. So 6% might sound like a lot of if you're used to just sitting back and waiting for someone to Google your company or um, you know find your website somehow. 6% might sound like a lot, but that's more of like an inbound strategy, which is a lot lower cost. But if you're actually trying to grow aggressively, which you obviously were and did, um, outbound type marketing costs typically range on the low end, super low end would be 5%, but typically it's somewhere around 10 and maybe even 15% of marketing spend
Yeah.
to get. So for the listeners, like 6% might sound like a lot, but typically it's actually for outbound type marketing, it's more like 10% typically. So, um, now the 6% commission, were you paying your door-to-door folks like employees or like subcontractors?
So I was paying them as employees. I believe
Okay.
that one of the first questions that we would get when we were hiring is, am I going to be a 1099? And the reason
Hmm.
why is because they were doing so many interviews for door to door that the 1099 was something that got brought up right away. And I want my guys to feel like they're part of my team because realistically, I mean, they are part of my team. So I don't
Right.
want them to feel like, oh, you guys are your own entity. So I brought them on as W-2 employees. And another thing that we were able to do to kind of get more talent, Daniel, was we were paying on a weekly basis. A lot of companies often pay, hey, we'll pay you the percentage once the job closes. We are paying you guys like when the job is produced. We were paying them as soon as the job closed because we had healthy margins and profit for us to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's why we did, and people like that because a lot of people were offering like, yeah, we'll pay you this much, but it's until that job produces. And it's like, I don't want you guys to sit around waiting 2 to 3 months for your guys' payment.
Yeah.
So those two things was what helped us out a lot.
Yeah. So for the employee piece, you know, I think you were right in because you usually have to train door-to-door folks on how to do it right, train them on the script, show them the neighborhoods. I mean, you can maybe get away with doing pay them as a subcontractor, like if they've done it before, and just give them the script and like have them run through it. But I think it could make sense either way. But with the employees, I definitely see, that argument, and especially if you want them to wear your gear and stuff, and if especially if you're growing them to be maybe a future salesperson, like a closer. Um, but so the 6% is what they're getting in commission. It's probably a note to say like you probably had to pay payroll taxes on that, so it's really going to end up on your profit and loss as like a little over
Yeah.
7%. But still, even with that, it's still pretty good, pretty low
Yeah.
for outbound marketing, which is awesome. Now, the other
Yeah.
thing you mentioned was like you're paying them right after the job is closed. I'm assuming you were doing some sort of deposit, like you're taking a deposit for the jobs that you booked. Is that right? Or
Yeah. So we were doing 50% deposits on all of our projects.
okay,
So that allowed us to have 50% upfront. And then Daniel, we run a sub model. So there's no upfront costs or things that we have with our painters.
cool. Yeah, so you're able to get that cash from the customer, use that cash to pay your customer acquisition costs. Your basically your door-to-door people. So I'm assuming your closers as well. So that makes a lot of sense. So you're able to maintain good cash flow by basically using your customers' money to then pay down your customer acquisition costs, which is your door-to-door people and your closers immediately. So you're reinforcing that win, where they got that lead, it was booked a few days later, I'm assuming on the calendar for an estimate, and then potentially they got that bonus, that 6% commission, within a week or two on a lot of them. Is that
Yeah.
sound right?
Yeah, and it was great. There was times, Daniel, where we were doing closing jobs in March and April, and we weren't doing their jobs until August. So we had 50% a couple months in advance,
Hmm.
which was great. Daniel, one thing I do want to talk about is people sometimes they have in their mind, they're like, I can't get 50% or I can't charge this amount of money. And the good thing that I had, Daniel, is I worked for a painting company that was one of the most expensive ones where I was used to as an estimator or closer to get 50%. And we were the one of the most expensive. So when people hear my average ticket, they're like, that's a high average ticket. And it's because my mind was already used to selling higher ticket items. So that's also helped us get to $1 million in revenues because we were selling projects at higher price. Um, so
Yeah, this good point. So like $12,000 average ticket, and this is mostly because it was full exterior. Did you do like a good, better, best type option or something like that? How did you get the average? Was it just larger homes that you were targeting, or were you doing some sort of upsell process there?
it was mainly upsell. I wish I would have had the good, better, best. That's something that we're actually doing now,
Okay.
but it's not something that I did back then. So back then, what we were doing is this is where we're at, and we were using products that other painting companies weren't offering or doing, and we would just offer them as an upgrade, and that's why we were able to charge more. So a lot of painters here they use super paint for body and trim. We're in the rainy state where we get really harsh weather. Like right now, it's like 40 something degrees. Um, and we upgraded them over to Emerald for trim. Those slight upgrades was able to bring in a couple $1,000 of a difference. So that's what helped us out a lot.
Nice. So with those upgrades on paint, you're able to basically not really those upgrades mostly went to the bottom line. So it probably really helped with not only your average job size, but also your just bottom line in general. Because I'm assuming those upsells were uh, pretty minimal in terms of the cost to you.
Yeah, our guys like using Emerald anyway, so it worked. That was a win-win. So it was amazing.
Nice. Um, cool. So going, I'm just curious about that. We talked about attracting the door-to-door folks. You paid them weekly, they paid them quickly, after the job was booked. You paid them a high commission relative to other folks. Um, did that really kind of solve the churn, or did you still have higher churn? Like, I'm assuming, a lot of the challenges that I hear with door to door is that, you bring someone on and you might think that they're going to work out, but then they kind of just they get discouraged because, getting the door slammed in your face hundreds of times can be challenging to deal with. So like, uh, did you learn anything on identifying the right people, or did you kind of already have a good talent base to work from, that these were door-to-door people who were familiar with it and it was pretty much just giving them a new script?
I will. So I want to share something as well. So we did really good, Daniel, with door to door. In around no August. So we had our highest month in July. I'm giving you this for context. Our highest month was in July. We did 316 in the month of July, and then after July, Daniel, our business went like this. So what happened? Jose got really comfortable, very complacent, and he was like, "I would just did 316." And the next month, we did horrible. And what happened was I did 316. My head just went like this big, and I was a, became a bad leader. I wasn't showing up like I should anymore, and I wasn't giving my guys the training that they deserved, and I ultimately lost my door-to-door team. And it's the reason why I'm getting at this is because when it comes to door to door, I primarily was looking after people who had no experience. People usually like hire people with experience, and I think that's great for certain roles. But I think for door to door, you want to be able to have someone who has a clean slate, so you can show them, hey, this is what we do, this is why we do it. Oftentimes, when you hire people with experience, they already have certain things in their mind, and that's how they do them, and there's no way you get out of that state of mind. So that's my reason why I hire primarily people who've never done door to door. And I think the reason why I was able to hold my door to door reps and have not an insane amount of turnover for the first few months of my business was because I was training every single day with them and I was giving them the training and attention that they deserved. After July, I ended up letting go of the training and attention that they deserved, and that's why I lost my team. I'm very happy to share with you, Daniel, now that in the last month and a half, we were able to regain our door to door team. So for about 8 months, 9 months in business, I had no door to door team. Um, and what ended up happening as well when I lost my door to door team is I now had cash flow and I was able to bring on Tritus as my marketing company. And we did really good with Tritus, and I let go of my door to door team, but I now have a door to door team again. Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's a killer stack there with doing social media outbound and also door-to-door outbound. I mean, so that's especially if you have both dialed in. So it sounds you definitely have the experience with running door-to-door team and then adding that on top of your social media, which I know Tritus gets good results.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome. So it sounds like, you have the marketing really figured out, but with the marketing, comes that you actually have to produce the work too. So how are you
Exactly.
able to ensure that you had enough of a team to actually produce all the work that you're booking?
So I was interviewing people February, and I actually landed a job. It was too complicated for me to understand, and I ended up hiring a sub team. For me, this was like a small job, small 2 to 3 day job. And what actually needed to happen was we had to remove all the taping on the ceiling and retape it, mud, texture, and everything. And I came across a subcontractor. His name's Edgar, and Edgar told me, "Hey, Jose, I want to work with you. I know you have a lot of potential." This job was severely underbid. And he said, "Don't worry though, like I want to build a partnership up with you." And we got along very well. Daniel was a very honest contractor. And unfortunately, you don't find many of those. Everybody's like up. And I understand, they want as much money as possible. And we were able to build up a connection and partnership. And he did primarily all of our production when it came to 2024. And we just counted on him, and he created 2 teams. So we were able to get all the work done with 2 teams, and then we would hire sub teams to help out on our more busier weeks. But primarily just interviewing them. Justin has a really good system in his group where he shares with you how to interview, what questions to ask for your subs to make sure that you're getting the best subs possible as well.
Okay. So you brought in this basically like a production manager to kind of manage the crews. Is that right?
No,
Or
he was a sub, but his name is Editor, and he was the guy who taught me everything I needed to know about paint. I was production, I was
okay.
sales, I was
Okay.
admin, I was all that stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. So he kind of just mentored you and then you took that learning and then kind of implemented it from there.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Um, so with the so you basically were able to get some mentorship, and then also you were screening, you had a screening methodology to screen subs and to get them. So how are you getting those sub candidates in? Like, how are you actually, like, what was your channel? Were you posting on Craigslist? Were you using, going to the paint store? Like, how were you actually getting those leads in?
Daniel, or not, sorry, Justin has a thing where he just says, "Hey, just look up painters in your local contractor pages on Facebook." And I went ahead and did that, and thankfully I was able to find a few crews to work with within that crew.
Cool. So basically just searching on Facebook and DMing those painting businesses.
Uh, just being like, "Hey, looking for painters," and everybody I didn't even have to DM anyone. They would just would attach their numbers, and I would just go through a whole list of people and call them and meet up with them at a Starbucks. It was really funny. I had like 30-minute slots for everyone. I met like 7 subs in one day. Like one
Yeah.
time, it was crazy. But yeah, it was great.
Okay, so you're doing a Facebook post on it in a Facebook group.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so you're finding like a local Facebook group in your area and saying, "Hey, I'm looking for painters." There, and then you're giving them like, "Hey, show up here, this time and location," and then you're just doing like kind of a group interview or like running through a group interview and going through candidates there. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Good stuff. And you would just do that kind of periodically, or was it just when you needed it, or?
Well, we only did it once. We did it a few times, but the primary one was one time, and that's how I was able to find 4 of the sub teams that I used throughout the year. So it was
Nice.
great. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like you're able, that first effort, really paid off, because I know some people go through subs, you know, um, pretty frequently. So it sounds like you found some good folks, and or you had a really good system to make sure clear expectations were, on each side, that you guys worked well together, that there was a good communication. I guess tell me about that. Like, how were you? Because you found your 4 main subs in the first try, and then you've kept them the entire time. It's been like a year or more.
Yeah. So I think the primary reason, Daniel, is most people see contractors and subs as like, let's pay them the least amount of money as possible. And, obviously what's important is understanding what your margins are and what you want your split to be. So for me, I believe in paying our subs well and paying them, a good wage. At the end of the day, you want to make sure you're attracting certain talent. I mean, you have this type of tier of subs and you have this type of tier of subs. The only difference is obviously the experience, and obviously they're going to want more money on this side. So if I can get this kind of sub, an eight-player sub, then that would be really great. So we pay people. We have systems in place. We pay them as soon as we got a final paycheck. We would pay them right away. As opposed to other contractors who'd be like, "Oh, hey, we'll pay you 30 days later, a couple weeks later." We didn't believe in that. Like as soon as you're done, here's your money, which was really great. Out of the four teams that we had, right now we currently are still using two of the four. The other two, it just we had to split ways for certain reasons, but we're still in communication. So if we ever get busy, we can always reach out to them.
Okay, that's fair. Awesome. Wow. So you've definitely accomplished a lot very quickly. Would have been some the biggest maybe the biggest challenge during this very fast growth over the last couple of years?
I think is the biggest challenges has been, you know, being able to hire certain people because Daniel, I was doing everything, and I'm someone who needs to have control of everything, and it was letting go of that. And initially, what was really hard for me. And what I would just say is just finding someone that you can fully trust in to let them go and do what you were doing before. And I think that's one of the most important things. And then realizing that there are people who are better than you at doing certain things. And you don't have to be the smartest, because you don't have to be the best at doing this. I think that was one of the biggest things that was hard for me to understand. And I think that primarily that's the biggest one. I think that stays with me throughout my whole trajectory.
Yeah. So it sounds like realizing that you letting go of control, like being willing to let go, put somebody that's good to take your place, and then realizing that you're not the best at everything. Like other people can actually do better than what you can do, especially if they're focused exclusively on it and you are doing 15 other things and you're just like partially focused on that. So
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Cool. No, I think this is super helpful for folks, especially who maybe are thinking about getting started, or either started just generally or started on door to door. Uh, and I think you've provided a lot of cool insights into your process. I appreciate you sharing. Do you have any other final thoughts of um, running a painting business or scaling it so quickly like you did? Uh, any thoughts or asks of the audience?
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing that a lot of people tend to forget and they get stuck on is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Thankfully, I was able to come across Justin very early on, and I believe in investing into mentorship. There's a reason why they are where they are, and if you're able to not make the mistakes they did and pay a certain fee for that, you're saving time and you're saving mistakes, which ultimately means more money. And then just going out there and taking action. Daniel, I'm not anyone. I'm not big or anything at all. But I do people who reach out to me on a weekly basis, and I like to help everyone as much as possible. I think I'm here on this role to help others. The biggest thing that I see with everyone is out of maybe seven people who hit me up in the last week and a half, maybe two of them take action, and those are the only things that makes a difference between the other five versus the two. Is just taking action. So my biggest thing to everyone is take that risk, take the action. Now is the time. There's no better time. And that's just the only thing that I tell people: just take action and literally reach out to people. You'd be surprised how many people actually want to help you, and just get over that fear of that nervousness of just reaching out to someone.
Love it. Take action. Don't get stuck with analysis paralysis. So makes sense. I think you're killing it, Jose. So I appreciate you sharing your journey, and I look forward to seeing what you do in the future. And I appreciate you. Maybe next time you can come back on the podcast and talk about how you crossed over 10 million next time.
Yeah, that's great.
So cool. Well, I really appreciate your time, Jose. And for the listeners, with that, we will see you next week.